How does a rich man's promise turn into an empty bank account and a cold sidewalk? What happens when the quiet husband you mocked collects proof and lets the law speak in front of everyone? Can a woman who thought she upgraded watch papers fall into her hands while cameras blink? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Xanthi Moreland. I was tired of coupons and second-hand sofas. I said I deserved a bigger life. Eli called it a phase. I called it a plan. When Rafe smiled in his tailored coat, I decided it was a door. He said I had investor energy. I told myself he saw the real me. I posted glasses of champagne and called them wins. People liked the shine. I told Eli that networking needs time and trust. He asked about rent. I said growth would cover it. I said he should be happy for me. At the clinic front desk, I watched the clock and answered calls. I checked my reel between patients. The comments said I was leveling up. I believed them. Rafe sent charts and spoke about funds with soft words. I said Eli feared success. I said I was building us a future. In truth, I was building a story I could show. Money moved, small at first, then more. I said it was temporary. Eli asked for receipts. I said he was controlling. At night he wiped the counter and stayed quiet. I thought silence meant surrender. Now I know it meant he was writing everything down. The apartment felt small that night, like the cupboards had leaned in to listen. I set my bag on the chair and said I had good news. I said a man from the city thought I had investor energy. Eli asked if I meant the man from the rooftop. I said yes, and added that his name was Rafe. I said Rafe worked in finance and guided people like me. Eli asked what that meant in numbers. I said it meant doors would open if we showed confidence. He asked if confidence meant money leaving our account. I said, vision always needs a seed. I used the word seed because it sounded safe. I lit the stovetop kettle and lined up 2 mugs. I placed his on the edge near the bills, and mine near the window, where the light looked clean. I said we could take a small step, then watch. He said rent was due next week. I said rent would be simple, after the first return. He asked what return. I said Rafe had a short-term pool with fast yield. Eli asked for the plan in writing. I said Rafe spoke by phone and kept it private for clients. I told Eli he could choose to believe in me or in fear. He let the word fear pass without comment. On the counter sat the utilities binder. It used to be slim. Now it had grown a belly. Eli had added those clear sleeves that make papers look serious. I said he was dramatic. He said he liked to keep order. I said order did not grow a life. I put my hand on the binder, as if to calm it. He moved it to the far side, then wiped the space where it had been. I called that gesture cold. He said he was just cleaning the counter. My phone buzzed with a message from Talia. She wrote that the suit in my reel looked expensive, and that I was finally in the right rooms. I sent her a flame emoji, and said she would meet him soon. She sent 3 crowns, and told me to stop listening to small talk from small men. I stared at the words, and felt the sugar of them coat my mouth. I told Eli that even my sister saw the change. He said sisters can like pictures without knowing the cost. I pulled up Rafe's photos and angled the screen. There were hotel lobbies, a tan coat, and the corner of a fast car. I said he was generous with his time and believed in women rising. Eli asked what Rafe wanted from me in return. I said mentorship. He asked again, slower. I said introductions, energy, and a little liquidity to show I was serious. I kept my tone light, the way I do at the clinic when a patient asks about a fee. Eli closed the drawer with the stamp kit, like he was done with the conversation. The click sounded final, even though he stayed. I poured the hot water. Steam slipped between us. I said I would transfer a modest amount, then report back by Friday. He asked for receipts. I said receipts were old thinking. He said receipts are proof. I said I was the proof. He rubbed his eyebrow like the way he does when numbers do not match. I hated that gesture because it made me feel like homework. He opened his phone and looked at the calendar. A small reminder previewed, and then slid away. I noticed the line, Harbour Cafe, 8:10 a.m. He dismissed it with his thumb. I asked if he had a breakfast. He said he had errands. I asked if those errands involved his mother. He said his mother had asked him to stop by. His tone was even, not sharp, which somehow felt sharper than a shout. I said Nora did not like me and always wanted me smaller. He said his mother liked quiet rooms. I took a photo of my mug with the steam and posted it with a caption about new doors. I tagged a quote about courage and did not tag Eli. My chest warmed when the hearts began. I said to Eli that publicity brings leverage. He asked if I meant leverage against him. I said I meant leverage for us. He said he wanted to see the transfer details before any money moved. I said he was shaking the ladder while I was climbing it. He said he was checking if the ladder touched the ground. The line annoyed me because it made sense. I opened the banking app and hovered over the numbers. I said I would start small. He stood by the fridge and watched the screen like it was weather. I told him he needed to trust me as a partner. He said trust has steps. I said steps were slow. He said slow can be safe. I called him afraid of success and said other men wanted a woman with ideas. He rubbed the edge of his mug with his thumb and did not answer. When I went to grab a pen from the desk, the top drawer did not slide. I pulled again. It did not open. I asked if he had locked it. He said he liked to keep certain items in one place. I asked what items. He said paperwork. I said the word paperwork sounded heavy, like police. He said it was just order. His voice stayed level. That calm felt like a closed door. My phone lit again. Talia wrote that Rafe had DM'd her a thank you for sharing my reel. She said he was charming and asked if he had friends. I sent her a wink and wrote that doors open all at once. I showed Eli the message and said even my family could see this was good. He said family can clap and still be wrong. I rolled my eyes hard enough to feel the skin pull. I told him he needed to stop trying to keep me small. He said he was trying to keep us safe. He moved his mug to the far counter from mine. The two cups looked like people who did not want to brush arms. I noticed it and felt a small pinch under my ribs. I told myself distance was a mood and moods pass. I told him I would not apologize for being seen. He said he did not ask for an apology. He asked for clarity. I said Rafe would send a note after my transfer. He asked if I trusted a note more than him. I said I trusted momentum. From the bedroom, I heard the faint whir of the shredder. It ran for a second and then went quiet. I asked what he had fed it. He said junk mail. I said junk mail does not need shredding. He said he liked clean edges. He took out his wallet and set a receipt on the table. He said he would keep a copy of any transfer I made tonight. He said we would both sign a simple sheet that said we agreed. I laughed and said we were not a courtroom. He said we were two people with a budget. I set my phone on the table and looked at the time. I said I needed to meet Rafe in a co-working lounge later in the week. Eli asked where. I said near the river. He asked which building. I said he was being invasive. He said transparency is protection. I felt trapped by the words, so I made my voice sweet and said I loved him and wanted us to shine. He stared at the mugs on opposite counters and did not change his face. His phone lit up on the corner again. The screen showed a missed call from private, then dimmed. He flipped it over and set it face down. The kettle clicked as it cooled. The apartment fell into a soft, even hum. I reached for the desk again, as if the lock might change its mind. It did not. The knob gave a small, hard sound. The locked drawer clicked once more, while the calendar reminder on his phone, now silent, waited somewhere I could not see. Morning light made the clinic windows look like clean teeth. I unlocked the front desk and set out pens with the little chains. I said to myself that I would act like a person who belongs in better rooms. The phones began to ring. I answered with my bright voice and told patients their times. Between calls, I checked my reel. The video of Rafe's coat and my champagne glass had doubled in likes. The comments called me focused, fearless, and lucky. I told myself they were right. Dr. Baird came in with a stack of charts and asked if I had a minute later. I said I could talk after the morning rush. She nodded and said we should use the HR room because it was private. The word private sat on my tongue like a pill. I smiled and said, of course. She walked away in her soft clogs. I watched her pass the break room where the staff board hung. A line of magnets held up a flyer about community image. I told myself it did not apply to me. A mother with a stroller came to the counter and asked about the wait. I said the doctor was running 10 minutes behind. She pointed to her phone and said she had seen a video of me from the rooftop bar. I laughed and said it was a joke. She said she hoped so because her kids follow the clinic's page. I said my content was private and had nothing to do with my job. She nodded, but her mouth stayed tight. She filled out a form and did not look at me again. Talia texted a photo of a gold bracelet with the caption, "Almost mine." She said Rafe had messaged her a smile and a crown. I wrote that doors open for people who hustle. She said I should plan a double dinner. I said yes and added a star emoji. She asked if Eli was sulking. I said he was being cautious, which was his brand. She sent 3 laughing faces and told me to stop letting men slow me down. I put my phone face down when a patient stepped up. Slack blinked on my desktop. A thread named follow-up sat at the top. A staff member had pasted a screenshot from a parent forum with my photo from the rooftop and a caption asking if clinic staff should model family values. Another staffer had replied that we should be careful with public images. My name was tagged. I clicked into the reply box and typed a long speech about modern life. Then I deleted it. I wrote a short line about personal accounts and freedom. I minimized the window as footsteps came near. Lena from X-Ray leaned on the counter and asked if the rooftop view was real. I said yes and added that the night was magical. She said it looked cold and windy on her screen. I said it was warm when you had good company. She asked if the man in the coat was an actual investor. I said he was my mentor and that he saw my potential. She lowered her voice and asked if Eli was okay with it. I said Eli supported my growth. She raised her eyebrows like a small tent and then went to fetch a patient. The waiting room TV played a loop of dental hygiene tips. A boy pointed with a toy car and told his father that I was on his mum's phone. The father looked over and then looked away fast. I told myself people always want to stare at bright things. I took a quick selfie behind the desk and added a caption about keeping appointments and keeping goals. I tagged discipline. I did not tag Eli. My hands shook a little, but I said it was the coffee. At 10, Dr. Baird came back and asked me to step into the HR room. I followed her down the hall. The room was small and smelled like lemon wipes. She closed the door and sat with her hands folded. She said she respected my work at the desk and that patients liked my calm voice. Then she said she was worried about my public posts, not the content itself, but the way they might link me to the clinic in donor searches. I said I never used the clinic tag. She agreed and thanked me for that. She asked if I could keep things low for a few weeks, just to settle the waters. I said people were jealous of any woman who grows. She said she understood ambition, but we were a family clinic and parents had called. I told her the rooftop speech was a joke. She said jokes can feel different when children hear them. I said we should teach kids not to read into everything. She said our job was to ease families, not test them. The line pressed on my chest. I said I would consider her point. She said thank you and added that she hoped I could keep work and personal lanes separate. I smiled and said I am very good at lanes. When I left the HR room, I saw the receptionist scrolling on her tablet. She turned the screen and asked if this was me. It was a new tagged photo of me and Rafe at the wine bar, posted by someone I barely knew. The caption called me leveling up. I said it was just a cute angle. She swiped to the next slide, and there was Eli, blurry in the background near the exit, eyes down. I said edits change a man's face. She nodded and said she liked Eli because he always carried chairs after the staff potluck. I said helpful men like to be useful. I did not like how small that sounded. I called Eli from the break room and said the clinic was acting like my reels were crimes. He said he hoped I would draw a line for a while. I said a line would slow momentum. He said momentum that breaks trust is not growth. I said he was being dramatic. He said he would not argue at work. I said work was fine. He said he had to go. The click after his last word felt like a door. I stood near the fridge and told myself doors open both ways. At lunch, Talia sent me a draft caption for a new post with Rafe. It said, "Wealth is a mindset." I wrote back that I loved it. Then, she sent a screenshot of a DM where Rafe praised my taste and said he could introduce me to a fun partner if I showed commitment. I typed that I was ready to show it. She sent a gif of a crown. I liked the shape of it. A teen volunteer came to the counter and asked if I wanted anything from the cafe. I said a bottle of water. He said people in the waiting room were whispering about me again. I laughed and said they were fans. He shrugged and said the whispers did not sound like fans. He walked away with a backpack that squeaked when he moved. I opened my browser and searched storage options for a short second, then closed the tab. I checked delivery tracking on a pair of shoes, then closed that too. I told myself I was a planner now, a woman with a system. In the corner of my eye, the copier room door was cracked. A staff member carried a stack of paper past it. The smell of warm toner spread into the hall. Slack pinged again. Another message in follow-up asked if staff could avoid being the center of neighborhood gossip. I typed that I would be more careful. Dr. Baird sent me a thumbs up. I felt like a child being handed a sticker. I turned back to the appointment schedule and called the next patient. At 2, the waiting room went quiet for a moment. The phone stopped. The air felt still and exact. I told myself this was my chance to reset the day. I reached for the brochure template on my desktop and dragged a new color into the header. I listened to the hall. The silence made my head throb. Then, from the copier room, the machine woke with a low whir. It drew paper through the rollers and pushed out a single blank page into the tray, as if something had been sent and then pulled back. The printer spooled again, paused, and the blank page slid forward with a soft slap. The rooftop wine bar sat above the river like a glass tray. String lights hung low, and the heaters breathed. I arrived in my black coat and said this was my scene. Rafe stood by the rail and held a flute. He said the view was capital working. I liked how he spoke, smooth and close, like silk on a table. I said Eli would meet us later and keep it friendly. Rafe said mentors enjoy calm husbands. I told myself that meant I had balance. People from my feed recognized the skyline and asked for a toast. I said a small one would help the night. They asked about my finance king. I said he believed in women who move fast. Rafe lifted his glass and said I was a rare bet. I laughed in the way that sounds like success. Phones popped up around us like small suns. I told myself this was how a person climbs. Eli arrived in a grey jacket and kept to the edge. He asked in a low voice if we could talk first. I said meetings had flow. He said details matter. I said we could firm them later. He asked if money had already moved. I smiled and said a seed was in the soil. His face did not change. He said he wanted documents. Rafe stepped in and said short-term pools had privacy. I said privacy protects winners. Eli said privacy also hides traps. I said he was being negative. Rafe opened his phone and tilted the screen. A chart glowed with clean lines. He said the yield was tight and safe. I said it looked strong. Eli asked which fund. Rafe said he would send a summary in the morning. Eli asked for the custodian name. Rafe said we should enjoy the night. I pressed my shoulder against Rafe's sleeve to signal trust. Eli's eyes moved once to my hand and then back to the skyline. He said he did not like the risk. I said, life is a risk. He said, Rent is not. A circle formed. Someone asked if I had left my budget life at last. I said I had upgraded the story. Another asked if Eli felt proud. I said Eli understood that some people lead. I felt taller when I said it. It was like standing on a small box. Eli said we should keep marriage words off a bar deck. I said the city was our deck now. A woman with red nails asked Rafe if he could double her savings by Christmas. He said he loved bold timelines. Two men laughed and called him a machine. I felt the heat of their laughter and called it proof. Talia slid in late with a silver top and said I was glowing. She said my coat looked expensive. I said it was a rental hack and that I was learning to look like my goals. She asked if Eli was making trouble. I said Eli was in a period of growth. She said growth needs quiet men. Her eyes went to Rafe and then to me. She texted me a crown under the table. I saw it light my screen and smiled. Rafe tapped his glass and said we should toast to new liquidity. He said he had a partner who loved couples with drive. He said we should plan a weekend at a spa to discuss plays. Eli said we had no money for spas. Rafe said elite spaces pay for themselves. I said exactly. Eli asked who the partner was. Rafe said it was discreet. Eli said discretion without paperwork was wind. I hated how plain he made it. A small cheer started near the heaters. Someone chanted for a toast. The ring pulled tight, phones high. I said love grows when it has room, and money does too. I said people who fear wealth call it greed. I said I was done with fear. Rafe held my elbow as if he had picked me. The touch felt like a stamp. Eli's jaw moved once and then stilled. He said we could leave if I wanted to talk like partners. I said we could talk later, after the clip. He said he would not be a prop. He stepped back toward the side steps. I felt the circle tilt. I heard my own voice get brighter to fill the space he left. Rafe whispered that solid men hate being outshined. I said Eli would catch up. Rafe said rich rooms cannot wait. I told myself urgency is how the ladder works. A young guy with a camera asked me to repeat my line about fear. I said it louder, clear and slow. Talia clapped for timing. The camera light washed my face. I tried to keep my smile calm, not hungry. Later, we went to the co-working lounge downstairs. It had glass walls and clean chairs. Rafe said he would show me the back-end flow. He opened a laptop and a folder tree appeared. The top said Archive A and Archive B. I asked what those were. He said they were storage buckets for long files. He minimized them fast when I leaned in. He said the real magic was not for public screens. I said I wanted to feel included. He said leaders do not need every button. I decided that sounded wise. I texted Eli to join us in the lounge. He arrived and stood near the door. He asked Rafe for the custodian name again. Rafe said the partner managed it. Eli asked if the partner had a license. Rafe said the partner avoided labels that slow return. Eli said he heard enough. I said he was shaming me in front of people who respected me. He said he was asking normal questions. I said normal is a word poor people love. As soon as I said it, I felt the word hang in the glass and I wanted to pull it back. Eli did not answer. He looked tired. Rafe's phone lit beside the laptop. A preview line popped up, showed a message, then vanished. The contact name was only a triangle emoji. I asked if that was the partner. He said yes and pressed his palm over the screen. I said I could reach out too. He said introductions work best through him. Eli asked if we could step outside. I said the energy was perfect here. He said I could have the energy. He wished me a safe night. He told me he would not argue in lobbies. He walked to the stair door with a steady pace. I rushed a step toward him and said, leaving looked weak. He said posting looked weaker. He said he hoped I would read the numbers with the lights off. I said he was talking like his mother. He said he was talking like a man paying bills. I said Rafe would pay twice. Eli said he heard promises, not plans. He paused with his hand on the metal bar. Upstairs again, the rooftop crowd had shifted. A group near the rail called for one more toast. Talia whispered that the clip needed a clean ending. I held my glass and said, "Courage is the cost of a better life." I felt my own heart rush at the sound of my words. For a second, I thought I heard a printer somewhere, but it was the heater fan. Phones hovered like moons. Rafe leaned in to clink. He said I was ready for real scale. I said I was ready. Eli stood by the exit and watched without interrupting. He kept his hands in his pockets, like a man who had decided what to carry. The bouncer moved through the patio to clear a walkway. He brushed past the rail and reached for the heavy door. The circle opened a little. My throat went dry and then wet again. I told myself this was only a step in a long climb. In the quiet between songs, the sound came sharp and clean. The patio door latch clicked against the frame while the phones kept recording. The family restaurant had bright paper streamers and a long table that looked too wide for honest talk. I arrived late with a glossy bag and a smile I had practiced in the rideshare mirror. Nora sat near the head, calm as a library. Eli helped the server adjust 2 high chairs. I said traffic was cruel and the river was blocked. Nora said I was just in time for the candles. I placed the gift by Matteo and said it was from us. Eli thanked me in a voice so even it felt like a line drawn with a ruler. Cousins filled the seats and spoke in soft bursts. Talia slid beside me and whispered that my coat photographed well. She said Rafe had liked her story with 3 crowns. I said he had great taste. She asked if Eli was ready to toast progress. I said Eli was adjusting, and that growth scares people. Talia nodded as if I had said something wise. She stared past me at Eli, and then at the cake on a rolling cart. A server dropped baskets of warm bread. Matteo asked if he could open the gift before the song. I said he could pull the ribbon and peek. He tugged, laughed at the paper noise, and looked at Eli for a nod. Eli said the ribbon was strong, and so was Matteo. The table smiled. For one small minute I felt safe, as if the room had agreed to be kind. I started a speech about family investing in dreams. I said some people see doors where other people see walls. A cousin across the table asked if this was about the man from my videos. I said it was about vision and rising. Another cousin asked if the man had a license. I said old systems hate speed. The cousins looked at each other the way people look when they hear thunder and count. Nora buttered a roll and asked if I had kept receipts. I said receipts were a mindset. She said receipts were also proof. Her tone was gentle and heavy at once. Eli spoke only to the server and to Matteo. He asked for extra napkins and thanked the runner for water. I fed the table lines about the city and new rooms. Talia backed me with nods and a soft hum of agreement. A teenager from the far end asked if my mentor paid for dinners. I said we took turns like equals. I tried to make the word equals sound like silk. It landed like paper. When the pizza arrived, the room grew louder. I lifted my phone for a quick story and framed the happy plates. Nora asked if I could keep family out of my posts for one night. I said people needed positive content. She said children needed quiet. I said quiet was the same as small. She folded her napkin and did not answer. Eli looked at the ceiling as if reading words only he could see. Matteo swung his legs and tapped the chair with his heels. He asked if I left Uncle Eli because he has no money. He said a boy at school told him I had a rich boyfriend now. The table stopped, as if a switch had been turned. Forks hovered like birds that forgot how to land. I said I did not leave. I said I expanded. I said we were modern and brave. Elias reached for Matteo's cup and steadied it. He told Matteo that adults sometimes say things they should not, and that family means care, not price. His voice was calm enough to make the air feel colder. Talia touched my knee and whispered that kids repeat nonsense. I said the kid had a point about envy. Nora's shoulders settled lower, like a curtain pulled to block a draft. She said scenes make children hold their breath. I said I was educating the room. Eli asked if this was the moment for education. I said every moment was. if people were open. He said this one was for Matteo. The way he said the child's name made it sound like a small house built around him. A cousin raised the idea of a toast for Matteo's goals. I said yes and reached for my glass. Eli stayed seated and kept his hands folded. Someone at the end asked where my mentor was tonight. I said he had a partner meeting. The cousin asked if I would bring him to a family dinner soon. I said soon, and I said people with scale have full calendars. I knew how thin that line sounded. I swallowed, then smiled harder. My phone buzzed on the table. A preview from Rafe flashed, a single triangle emoji and the words, "Fund window." Before I could open it, a second vibration came from Eli's phone. A calendar reminder slid across his lock screen with a soft glow. Studio 3:35 p.m. He tapped dismiss and placed the phone face down. The time marked itself in my mind like a smudge. I asked if he had an appointment. He said he had plans. I asked if plans meant a talk with his mother. He said he would handle his day. His tone had no teeth and still cut. I said we should give Matteo a lesson. That money loves confidence. Nora said children should learn that money follows honesty. I said honesty was my brand. A cousin coughed into a napkin. Talia sipped her soda and arched her brows like a shrug. I felt the table tilt. For a second I wanted to say I was scared, that Rafe had asked for one more transfer and promised a return, that my card felt hot in my hand last night. I did not say it. I stuck to my line and called doubt the old enemy. The server rolled the cake in and set it by Nora. The room dimmed. The teenager with the lighter stood ready. I raised my phone again and framed Eli and Matteo. Nora lowered my wrist with 2 fingers and asked for 1 minute without posting. Her touch was light and still felt like a rule. I withdrew my hand and said, of course. I tried to act generous. Inside, a small hard pebble tapped against my ribs. We sang. Matteo closed his eyes and made a wish. The lighter scratched, caught and flickered out. The teenager clicked again. A thin hiss filled the space over the cake and then stopped. Eli told Matteo to try a smaller breath so the flames could live to be blown. The line sounded simple and true. I hated that it sounded more like a lesson than anything I had said all night. After the candles, we walked to the park across the street so the kids could run. The sky turned the color of a cold peach. I stood by the swings with Talia. She said my face had gone stiff. I said I was fine. She said Rafe's message looked urgent. I said it was just timing. Eli pushed Matteo once and then stepped back. Nora walked beside the stroller and spoke to no one. I checked my phone. Rafe had sent a link that opened to nothing. He wrote that a transfer gap would close if I acted now. I told myself gaps happen in big deals. I told myself he was guarding the door like a knight. I did not ask why the link failed. I wrote back a crown. He responded with a single hourglass. Eli came near and asked if I would ride home with him. He said we should talk in quiet. I said I had to call Rafe and confirm details. He said we could talk later if I preferred. He picked a leaf from the stroller wheel and looked toward the street. I told myself he would blink first as usual. He did not blink. The kids shouted about the slide. A jogger passed and glanced at us. I felt the day collapsing into a thin line between 2 choices: admit doubt or demand faith. I lifted my chin and chose the second. I said to Talia that some people have never seen a woman upgrade, so they panic. She said the panic looked like rent. I laughed to show I was above it. We started back to the cars. Eli walked ahead with Matteo. I checked my bank app and saw the numbers I didn't want to see. I closed the screen and pressed my phone to my palm like a heat pack. At the curb, the cake box slid in the trunk with a soft thump. The air smelled like sugar and cold leaves. The last thing before we split ways was small and loud at once. The lighter in the teenager's pocket knocked against the metal bench, and when he tested it for fun, it made a short, sharp sound. The flame tried to form, hissed, and went out. Night pressed against the balcony glass like a cool hand. I stepped outside with my phone and tried to breathe slower. The city hummed. Below, a car alarm chirped and went quiet. I told myself I could still fix everything if I controlled the story. I said momentum comes back when you act bold. Eli slid the door open and stood in the frame. He asked if I wanted tea. I said I wanted support. He said support meant truth. I said truth was that Rafe had a delay, not a problem. He said I should stop saying delay when the numbers looked like loss. I said the numbers were only low for a day. He said days become months if you ignore them. He spoke like weather again, steady and slow. It bothered me more than a shout would. Inside, 2 mugs sat on opposite counters like magnets flipped the wrong way. I moved mine closer to his to make a point. He moved his farther, without a word. I said he was punishing me. He said he was setting space. I said space invites strangers. He said space invites air. I felt the shape of that line and hated that it fit. He asked for the transfer receipts. I said Rafe kept it private for a reason. He said private makes scams easy. I laughed in a short way and called him dramatic. He did not rise. He only pointed to a sticky note on the desk that read, "Bring forms." He asked me to screen record my messages with Rafe. I said screen recording was distrust. He said it was record. I told him to drop the investigation tone. He said he was keeping us safe. He did not touch me, did not crowd, did not raise a hand. He just stood with the weight of a careful person. I drifted to the desk and tapped the laptop. The screen woke to a clean tree, folders named Archive A and Archive B. A CloudSync pop-up slid up and said, "File uploaded successfully." I asked what he was saving. He said household history. I said it looked like a case file. He said it looked like order. I jabbed the escape key and called him cold. He asked again for the receipts. My thumb hovered over my messages. Rafe's last hourglass sat there like a dare. I did not open it. We drove to the storage unit after 9. The corridor smelled like dust and metal. Our unit door rolled up with a cough. Eli clicked on a small lamp. Shelves lined the wall. 3 white binders sat in a neat row. Home, auto, bank. He opened bank and flipped plastic sleeves. Every page was a month I remembered and a month I did not want to face. I said he was building a museum of our small life. He said he was building facts. He asked again for the transfer dates. I gave him 2. He wrote them in a tiny block print on a clipboard labeled Only Statement. The word sat clean at the top. No letterhead, no seal, just that one word. It made my mouth dry. He lifted a smaller box and set a single USB stick on top. A date was written on the label. He asked me to send him the screenshots tonight so he could add them. I said he was making me the villain when I had only tried to lift us. He said the villain was the man who took my money. I told him villains look like saviors before they show their teeth. He said then I should choose distance from the savior. I said I needed 1 more day to fix it. He said no more transfers. My phone buzzed with Talia's name. I stepped away down the corridor. She whispered that Rafe had not answered her since noon. She asked if I was with him. I said he was in a meeting about the fund window. She said she checked one of his photos, and the car plate was a rental. I told her rentals are normal for big clients. She went quiet and then said my face sounded thin. I said her ears were dramatic. She said she loved me and did not want to fire. I said I had a bucket. She said buckets melt when they are plastic. She asked if she should talk to Eli. I said no and hung up. When I turned back, Eli had set the binders in a row like small soldiers. He closed the unit and slid the lock with a low, clean click. In the parking lot, his steps echoed. He asked if I would stay off post for a week. I said posts were my work now. He said my work could be finding receipts. I said he was trying to win by looking good. He said he was trying to stand without noise. Back home, the guest bed looked too neat, like it had learned how to be a wall. I said the bed felt like punishment. He said it felt like sleep. In the kitchen, the shredder gave a short hum and stopped. He reached for mail and flipped the stack. He set aside envelopes in a careful line. He took a photo of one, and slipped the phone back in his pocket. I asked if he was documenting me. He said he was documenting life. I said, life is bigger than paper. He said, paper remembers when people forget. I tried a new angle. I said I had chased Rafe for us, for the future, for kids we might have. He said a future made of lies breaks children before they start. I said no one was broken. He looked at the empty fruit bowl and asked how much I had moved in total. I gave a lower number than the truth. He nodded once and said thank you for telling the part I could say. The words made me feel seen and small at the same time. He opened his laptop at the table. A spreadsheet sat there with short columns, just initials and dates. He minimized it when I stepped near. I said secrecy ran both ways. He said privacy was not the same as hiding. I said those words meant the same thing in the dark. He said they do not when the goal is safety. His phone screen flashed with a label, Paper Drop 6:05 a.m. He dismissed it quietly. I asked what paper drop meant. He said errands. I asked if his mother set the errands. He said he managed his own list. He gathered his keys from the dish. A new, unfamiliar key caught the light. I asked what door it fit. He said it fit calm. I rolled my eyes. He checked his wallet, then set it down again. He said we should not discuss this with family tonight. He said he had already returned Nora's call and told her he was fine. He said he would appreciate the same from me. I said Nora could mind her lane. He said lanes prevent collisions. I moved closer and touched his wrist. I said we could still be a team if he stood beside me tomorrow for one post. He said he would not be content. I said a single clip could stop gossip. He said gossip was not his problem. He looked toward the balcony, then back at me. He said he wished peace for both of us. He said he would handle matters properly. The word properly sounded like a door closing without a slam. He stepped into the hall. The building air was cooler there. He slid the keyring into his pocket. The new key flashed and vanished. The elevator at the end of the corridor opened for someone on another floor and gave a bright bell. He walked toward it, quiet and certain. I stood in the doorway with my phone face down, my throat tight, and the bell still ringing in my ears, while the numbers over the elevator changed. The bus terminal concourse buzzed with rolling bags and shoe squeaks. I stood under the departure board, with a scarf arranged like armor and a caption drafted in my head. I planned a selfie and a bright line about second chances. I told myself Eli would soften when he saw how calm I looked. Talia waited near a kiosk and said the light was good. I said we would shoot fast and then grab coffee. Eli walked from the platform gates with steady steps, nodded to security, and stopped 2 arm lengths away. I said a united photo would stop the rumors. He said public truth was fine, but I should put the phone down. I said a picture proved progress. He said facts would do that. A man in a grey jacket approached and asked my full name. He held a folder. He said he needed to deliver documents. I said he could call later. He said service was effective here. He stated the time, spoke Eli's name, and offered the papers. I said the lobby was not the place. He said public places were acceptable. The donors from the clinic gift drive crossed behind him and pretended not to stare. Mr. Dunn stood by a timetable and studied it too long. I took the folder. The first page showed our names and the words divorce petition. The next lines listed temporary financial orders, exclusive use of the apartment, a property hold, and communication rules about posting and tagging. I said this was sudden. He said notice was now given. Security stepped closer and asked if we needed help. I said everything was fine. My voice did not agree. Nora watched from a bench with her hands around a paper cup. Talia texted that I should push a peace caption anyway. I said I would post the truth. Eli said I should read the posting provision. I saw it again and felt heat rise in my face. I said this was cruel. He said he had promised to handle it properly. He thanked the server and turned toward the gates. The departure board flipped. The overhead camera blinked, and the papers weighed down my hands while he walked away.